We are going to be making a multi-part illustration of the human eye as our next project in medical illustration. And in order to do that, we're going to be using the skin tone watercolor that we've been working on. You will build on those skills. So this will be a watercolor and pen illustration instead of just a pen illustration. So here are some of the requirements for the project. You will need a self-portrait of your eye. So just like the little eye portrait chunks that we've been working on as our practice eyes, we will need a photo of one of your eyes the same way. You will need a diagram of human eye anatomy, and I will share several different versions of these for you to choose from for your final illustration. You will need to fully label the illustration, so you will need a label sheet for the labels that go on your eye illustration. And then there are some optional elements, right? We'll work in watercolor. You will also work some in pen. So we will talk about adding pen outline and shading techniques into or on top of watercolor, both for your self-portrait eye and for the eye diagram or the eye anatomy illustration. And then optional for you also is if you want to add more information about the human eye. So for instance, you could take this assignment as a way to just do the anatomy of a normal human eye. Maybe you yourself are nearsighted or farsighted and choose instead to make an illustration of what changes happen in the eye for you to need glasses, or you maybe have some problem with your eye and would like to add a component of an illustration that deals with that. Okay, so that would be an optional element for you if you want to take the idea of the human eye illustration and take it in a little bit different direction and include a little bit more information. That is 100% an option that you can take. So the self-portrait portion, you will need a photograph. So you can see I have a photo here of my own eye, and it is cropped. And so we'll talk about taking a photo today and cropping it down so that it is just this little rectangle. You will paint that using the complementary color combination that works for your skin. And it will be included as the portion of the eye that shows the exterior of the eye for your illustration. Then you will need to do eye anatomy and the labels for that eye anatomy. We will also paint this using watercolor, and you will have to think about and make a plan for how you're using color to kind of link or connect like structures in the eye so that they make sense. So in the illustration that's on the screen, you can see that, for instance, the retina is yellow and it has been painted yellow wherever it is in that illustration so that we can see and understand where the retina is exactly. It's got that color connection. Okay, so we want to think about using color to connect the structures. We will also include any pen outlining or shading as needed in addition to any watercolor. Today you are going to work in your sketchbook to plan your page. So you're going to experiment with layout. How are your objects going to be arranged on your sheet? Where will your text labels and your call out lines be? How do they integrate with the layout of your eye anatomy and your portrait eye? What is your plan for using color to make connections and to increase the understandability of your illustration? What, if any extra information are you including about the eye? And how will you make your illustration interesting or unique, but still include the elements that are required for the project? So this becomes our job today, is to kind of research a little bit the eye, look for our reference image for the eye anatomy, and also to take that self-portrait photo to include as a part of our illustration, which we'll start talking about tomorrow. We will then tomorrow start a full-size detailed illustration rough draft. Okay, so your full illustration will get made on a sheet of paper from your sketchbook. We will then use the transfer paper to move it to the watercolor sheet before we paint. Now this full-sized illustration will take us a couple of days to create. And then, like I said, it becomes the first layer of our illustration before we start painting and finishing next week. So that gives you some idea of kind of the trajectory. And like I said, we are going to be starting today with planning our page, taking our self-portrait, and figuring out what additional eyeball information we're going to include.